in 3 different pieces. You get to customize the middle piece. Okay. I'm very deliberate in what I type in here, so that they'll all be unique and that I can use the part of the access code that I can remember to pull up reports on the students, and I'll be showing you that in a minute. So I usually do something like C for Clark, B for Block 3, because I know I have Microsoft Block 3 in the fall. So I do Clark Block 3, F for fall, 2, 1. That's how I keep all my access codes different. Because when I first started out, I would put Clark, or I would put Word, or I would, do something like that. But you don't need to put Word, because you're going to use this for Word, and you're going to use one access code the entire semester for Word and PowerPoint. You don't want to have to trade when you're going through. Now, number of students. Here's what I can tell you through trial and error and tears. You know how kids will shuffle around the very beginning, especially the very beginning of school. So if I know, I can tell you right now, my class has 29 computers in there. I'm not going to put 29 students in here. I'm going to put more like 35 or 40. It doesn't matter if you go over, okay? But if you go under, guess what you have to do? Create a whole nother access code for the 2. Plus, you got kids that'll put an access code in there, but somehow they forget something, or they add another account or something, and you know that they've already put that access code in there, but then they end up having to put it in there again. This was especially true during the COVID thing, where I usually only put 35 in here. I put 45 in there, and it still wasn't enough, because I don't know what they were doing at the house. I really don't know. But so go over the amount of students. I'm going to put 40 in here. It doesn't hurt to put extra in there. You definitely want to have multi-user. It's already there by default. That way, if you put individual, you're going to have an individual access code for each student, and you don't want to do that. What you want to be able to do is the very first day that you're doing this, you want to put the access code up on the board, and you want to walk around as the students get logged in and put their access code in. They only have to do it one time, and then we're done. Okay. I don't put 365 days. They don't need it for a whole year. I usually put maybe 100 days in there, 120 days in there, something like that. Now, this is coming up because I happen to know that our Gmetrix expires November 15th. So that's why that date's coming up there. All right, so as you scroll down, so you have some other choices down here. I just leave that at 100 tests per student. I've never had a student take 100 tests, but maybe that day will come. And then I usually keep this where I allow students to review missed questions without changing the score. Our students that are very, some of them are a little OCD, and some of them are just very, very good students. And if they get something wrong, they want to go back and see, if they could do it right. So I definitely allow them to do that. It doesn't change their score. And if they're study guide, you definitely want to have those. I have that checked too. Now, here's the important part. Here's those Gmetrix tests that I talked about in the very beginning, the pre-made tests. Okay. We don't need to have 2010, so I'm going to uncheck that. We don't need 2013. I'm going to uncheck that. I don't need 2016. Some of y'all still might be on that, so you might have to keep that checked. So I only need 2019. I'm going to do the little drop down. So it shows you I don't need Excel. I'm teaching Word PowerPoint, so I don't need the Excel. The more stuff that the kids can accidentally click, it's not good. So as a matter of fact, when I first start out, I uncheck everything here except for Word. And then the second quarter, I'll uncheck PowerPoint. Sometimes I won't. These are just the big reviews for the very end. Sometimes I won't even check these at the very beginning, because then they get confused and take that instead of my little pre-made test. Okay. So when you're first starting out, you won't have any custom tests. I do. Why aren't they showing up though? Oh, I noticed a bunch of mine were deactivated and I don't know why. But so if I wanted to activate some of these little quizzes and stuff that I have, the custom test, I could go ahead and check them right now from here. But I noticed a few minutes ago when I was getting ready for this that a bunch of mine had been deactivated somehow, so I have to go back in there and activate them all. And I only had time to do a few of them. All right, so I'm just going to check a couple of them so y'all can see what it's going to look like in a minute. All right, and so then I click confirm. And this is do a review of everything you've done. You can check it and make sure everything looks good, and then you can click create. Now, this is when you see the entire access code. This is important. You're going to need to put this whole thing either on your Canvas site or on your whiteboard or both places. I usually put it every place I can possibly do. I think I even have passed out sticky notes with it on to get everybody, to make sure I get everybody in there. So that whole thing is necessary. I'm going to copy it right now. I'm going to meet it in a minute. All right, so now I have the access code. And now when I go back to access codes, I'll be able to see it. I hope. There it is. There's the one that I just created. Okay, so let's move down to custom tests. Okay, this is what I was talking about. This is so very important. Most of mine are on the second page for some reason. I think it's alphabetical, or that's why. All right, so look at all the custom tests that I created. I create a quiz, what I call a quiz, for each lesson. Now, I've done stuff a lot different than the stuff that you download from the Microsoft webpage. I've been teaching Microsoft since version 2010 when we first started doing certifications. So I had 2010, I had 2013, I had 2016. I took little bits and pieces from each year and assignments and kind of combine them, where I've got 10 lessons for Word. I call them lessons. I don't call them chapters anymore. I mean, they used to be chapters when we had a MOAC book, but we don't have that anymore. And I am willing to share that with you guys. I will put it on Canvas Commons. But what we did, myself and the other Microsoft teacher here, and that's why when I was talking about Will, I talked to Will a bunch of times when I was going through this process. We opened every single Gmetrix practice, every question. There's like 250 possible questions for Word and 175 or something for PowerPoint. We assigned every single question to ourselves and mapped it to our lessons. And so that's how I was able to create these custom tests, because when the 2019 first came out, book associated with it, there was no real good way to figure out what question went where. They have fixed that since then. So, but if I wanted to make a custom test, these are already made, okay? But I can also edit them over here. I can assign them. If I wanted to go ahead and assign this, that's a PowerPoint. Let's go to Word. If I wanted to assign this Word lesson 1 quiz to that access code I just created, I would just click assign this test. Gmetrix being slow. All right, it's got all these old access codes. I'm gonna uncheck them. I don't need them to be there. I don't think it really matters because they're expired anyway. So there's my new access code that I just created. I'm going to assign it to that. I'm going to click next. I don't do student groups. and it's successfully assigned. Okay, let me go back to custom test. I'm going to jump back over here and see if anybody's got any questions in here yet. Nope. Okay, good. Just somebody that says that they use custom test for Adobe. You got to use these custom tests because they need to be seeing these questions as they go. Because what happens is they start to see how picky that Gmetrix and the Certiport certification test can be. I think that's why I had so many students that were failing it originally before I got Gmetrix, because I found out real quick by using Gmetrix, if they don't spell something right, if they don't capitalize a word, little things like that, they'll get it wrong. And then they also get used to, I do my quizzes, I do my test timed, because there's no test these kids take in school that only lasts 50 minutes. They're always 2 hours, and then they can get more time beyond that. So a lot of them fail the test just because they run out of time. Yes, I'm going to show you how to create a custom test right now, Elizabeth. All right. So to create a custom test, you just come up here to the top where it says create new test. And you'll name the test. I just like to go by my, lesson numbers. But if you were doing a specific skill, do word tables or something like that, you could do that. I always put passing score of 70. I spend the first week or two when we talk about Gmetrix test, and I ask them, why do I put the passing score of 70? Well, that's the magic number of what they have to get to pass their certification. So they really start to get to know that 70 is very important. And if they don't get a 70, I make them take it again. Real important, training mode, okay? Training mode is where when they take the custom test, they can use a help button, number one. Number two, once they finish one question and click to go to the next, it'll tell them right away whether they got it right or wrong. There's nothing we can do in teaching that gives kids automatic feedback like that. And this is why Gmetrix is so awesome. I can't, when I'm grading all these assignments that they have from Microsoft, I can't look at each assignment and do comments and tell them what they did wrong. It's too much. And plus, I'm usually grading it 2 or 3 or 4 days after that they did it. And they're probably not even going to look at what I put on there. So with this, they're doing the question, they're clicking next, and it tells them, yes, you got it right, or no, you didn't get it wrong. And I tell them, if you get it wrong, go back, you can try it again. Use the little help button, okay? So I click that if I want it to be in training mode. This is what I call my quizzes. My quizzes are in training mode, okay? When it comes to test, I usually do a quiz for every lesson, and then I do a test every other lesson. And it'll be the same questions. The big difference will be in testing mode, it's going to be timed, and they're not going to have a help button, and they're not going to know right away whether they're getting it right or wrong. Okay. So then you click next. Here's the big screen where all these different things come up. But what you're looking for, hopefully you're using Office 365 2019. As soon as you click on that, new this past year, we have browser-based. That's for all those people that had the little Chromebooks and couldn't take the in-app. But the live in-app is normally what you're going to want to do. The browser-based is really not good. All right, so then you pick which app that you're going to use. Microsoft Word Associate. Don't accidentally do Word Expert. Freak them out. Click Next. This is where they're kind of grouped by objective. Okay, look how many questions there are. And some of them are very similar to each other, There's a lot of questions. Okay. So, like I said, what I did was I went through every single question and mapped it to a skill. So I know exactly what questions go where. I've got a spreadsheet with all this information that I can also share out and put in the resources as well. All right, so if you were making a custom test and you wanted to do it on tables, I think there is a whole section on graphs and tables down here. Yeah, tables and lists. So I would just come here and check out all the different table things that I wanted on my test. I'm just going to do a couple. It'll tell you after you've checked off stuff how many questions you selected. Also notice, this is very important in case, because it happens. There's questions that don't work right, or questions that even though the kids do exactly what's right, it says that it's wrong. When that happens, make sure you need to know this number right here, the question number, because on the test it might say it's number 4, but that doesn't mean anything to Gmetrix. If you try to contact them and say question 4 doesn't work, you need to tell them that it's question number 43499, and it'll show up on the actual test too, because I'm getting ready to show you that. All right, so click next. You can assign the test right away. I'm going to assign it to that access code that I just created. And then we're done. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing this for a second. And hopefully I'm going to be able to go to I don't know if this is going to work, but I hope it does. Can you see the Gmetrix thing that I have back over here? Oh. Not yet. Let me try again.
Fran, I accidentally muted you. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I'm trying to see if you can, I don't think it's, this is the one where you see a million screens. Oh, Lord. I know this is there's no better way to share this, I don't think.
It does look like it's trying to launch, Fran. It's got the spinning wheel again.
I'll give it a second. Well, what I'm trying to do is show you the actual software program where the kids would take the tests, so that I could launch that test that I just made and show you what it looks like, but it might not be possible with this. I'm going to stop sharing this.
Fran, it looks like it was trying to load. I mean, it was.
I think what it'll do, because I saw this on somebody else's screen yesterday, it just shows you like you're looking in a funhouse mirror. It shows you like 3,000 of them, and they all get smaller and smaller. So it's, I can kind of show you. Hold on, let me find the right thing in my PowerPoint slides. So when the students get in there, they I know this took for a second for y'all to see this last time. They can either sign up, or most of them, my kids like to just go through the Google, sign in using their Google account, and that works really, really good. But this is what they see, and this is the software that you have to download, okay? So this is where, if they click on this, they'll put that access code that you gave them. The first time that they try to use it, it's going to ask for access code. Then from then on, for them to take a test, they'll click, there's their, I didn't know that I had that in there. That's where they'll put the access code. That's why you have to give them the whole access code right there. And then they can start a new test. As long as you just assign them 2019 tests, that's all they'll see. And this is an example of what my kids would see. You'll see that the pre-made test that Gmetrix has made looks totally different than the ones I made. They have a little logo on there. They're actually a different color than mine are. And then there's where I have my custom tests. They can also resume a test that they saved. That's how I stop the kids. You know, maybe we have 15, 20 minutes left in class, and I see them on their cell phone, and they're like, oh, I don't have enough time. Say, start it. You can resume it next class. It saves it, even if they don't click save. And then they can go to their save test. I like something new that Gmetrix has done in the last upgrade. It used to be that they could start a test. Some of these kids, they don't remember what they do from day to day. They might have started the test, and under their save test, they had like started the test 10 times. But now, if you've already started on a test and you try to click start a test chapter 1 or lesson 1 again, it'll say, do you want to resume or do you want to start over? So I like that. And then it'll also show you your completed tests and what your scores were. Ooh, I did bad on that one. What in the world? So that's pretty, those are pretty good features. All right, and let me go back to the Jenny says she used it. Some of them work in the browser and some work in the app. What is the difference? You want, if I wouldn't do the browser tests unless I had kids with a Chromebook at home. Hopefully, I think we're going to be in person this year unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong. So you're the one that controls whether it goes to the browser and the app. That's where, remember when we were creating the custom test, you got to choose whether it was live or browser based. That's going to be the difference. It's how you set it up. If you do live in app, then they can't take it on the browser. If they try, it won't, it'll tell them that they have to download the software. So that's the difference. Okay, good. All right, so let me go back here. I think we're just hopefully I'm gonna get all this done in here. So the other big thing is reports. This is, you know, just the gold right here because it helps you. Number one, test tracking. I'm going to show you first. It's a little laggy here. There we go. So here is where your knowing that access code and put something in there when you make your access code that you can remember and type it in here. So I'm going to use one of my, when did I have Microsoft last semester? You can put a start date and an end date in there if you want to just look at things for the last week. But obviously I haven't had anybody take any tests for a long time. So I just pulled up my old access code and gotten rid of the dates in there. So there's my little test takers and their scores. You can download, export it as a spreadsheet and use that to fill in on your grade book. The great thing is you can look at the details of it and see what questions individuals got right and wrong. Okay. But that's why it's real important when you're creating your access code that you're going to have something that you can kind of remember and type in there. And that's why you want to have separate ones for separate classes, because I had 2 blocks of it last semester. So if I wanted to look at my block 2, this is my block 2. So I had separate grade books for each. But what's even better under reports is the creator report. You can look at, well, this looks different. You can look at details report. You can look at objective breakdown. This is my favorite one right here, objective breaks down. So you can do a start date and a product, and you can see exactly what they're not getting. So for instance, I might have done a test or quiz on tables, and I find that they don't know how to sort tables. So I know that the next day I'll kind of look at their breakdowns of what skills they didn't know how to do, and go over in class, you know, which things that they had done bad on. Or we have something called West Success at our school. I think a lot of schools have that, where it's like an extra 20 or 30 minutes on the class period, on different class periods, where you can remediate. So I might just get those kids that didn't pass the test and ask them to sit in different computers during that time and go over that stuff with them. But all these are different reports that you can pull. You just kind of have to mess with this. It's not going to do much good for me to go over them. It's just kind of something you have to. But I also like the student progress report. A lot of times I'll send that to a parent when they're not getting why their student isn't doing well. In addition to the progress report that I'm giving them from the school, I can say, well, this is 60% of their grade comes from, because 60% of my kids' grades come from Gmetrix, because I do 40% classwork, 40% test, and 20% quizzes. Well, my quizzes and my tests are in Gmetrix, so that's 60% of their grade is coming from here. So sometimes I'll run the student progress report in addition to their regular progress report and send it home so that their parents kind of understand what's going on. All right. And so lastly, under students, the only time I use this is when the students can't remember their password, or most of them do fine because they use sign in with Google. But for some reason, some kids, when they try to sign in with Google, it just won't work, and they have to make themselves an account, which includes a password. And you know how the kids can't remember their passwords. So if that's the case, you search by name. I'm going to pick on my son. Okay, so Justin Clark doesn't remember his password. Or maybe he doesn't remember his username. As soon as I pull him up, I can see, hey, your username is JCLA8600. But if you click reset password, it's going to automatically set it to Gmetrix. And then you say, hey, your username is JCLA8600, and I just reset your password to Gmetrix. All right. All right. The difference. Okay, so here's Beth is asking. Oh, look at Adobe and Gmetrix do have live app testing scenarios. They have live in the app, and well, I don't know about Gmetrix. Adobe. I don't know about Adobe.
So Adobe is live in the app, just like Microsoft Office is, and so is Autodesk, which means that you'll download the Gmetrix app to your desktop and launch your practice tests there, and that allows Gmetrix to integrate with that software, whether it be Adobe, Microsoft Office, or Autodesk on your that's already installed on your computer. And so that's the big benefit, is because it mirrors the certification exam. So there are practice tests out there in Adobe that are, that are not mirroring the practice tests, but really to truly prepare your students, you want to use the ones that are live in the app, because that's how the exam is. And anytime you run into issues with Gmetrix, I know this last year was super crazy because they got 1 million phone calls, but they've added more support staff. They now have an incident tracking queue, finally, that you can open incidences on their website. And I think they're past all of that craziness. So I definitely would not even hesitate to just tell you to give them a quick call if you ran into any issues. They can either help you troubleshoot them or help you figure out whatever's going wrong. And I'll put their phone number one more time in the chat.
Christy, a lot of them are saying that it didn't work on iMacs, and I know it didn't work from the Microsoft. It didn't work for my kids. They downloaded the iMac version, and even one of the teachers had a MacBook, and it did not work well on that, or not at all.
Okay. Gmetrix has told us that it works, so I'm wondering if it would be better. I'll reach out to Gmetrix, but and just confirm that. But it might be good to just call that number, the 801-323-5800, and ask Gmetrix to help walk through that, and they can help troubleshoot, because I do know teachers who are using it on Mac computers.
Okay. I know that their customer support is outstanding. Anytime I've ever called, they have resolved my whatever issue I have. I've complained about questions and they've fixed them or taken them off. So they are awesome to work with, and no question is too small for them.
Yeah, they're amazing. And right now, where they're just not getting a ton of calls, it's a really good time to troubleshoot with them. So I feel very bad, but I have to leave to go to my next session that I'm presenting in.
That's all right.
But, if any of you have additional Gmetrix questions, you're always, like I said, call Gmetrix. They can answer them. If you need to get me involved, you can call me. I'll go ahead and put my contact information here. And I'll let Fran go ahead and take back up with her session. Sorry, Fran.
No, that's okay, because I needed your help on that, because we had the iMac experience too. We had a couple that had that. And I just ended up checking them out, a laptop from school, rather than deal with it. So I see questions in here asking about the difference between the app. I think it was Heather. No, Beth said, not exactly sure what you mean by the desktop app. What's the difference? How do you access this through Gmetrix? Okay, so that's what I was trying to explain at the very beginning, because that's the part I didn't get at the very beginning, is there are two pieces. The first piece is that Gmetrix admin console that I've been using throughout this whole session. That's what the piece that you use to create everything. The second part is a software, Gmetrix software that needs to be downloaded to the computers. Both of those links are, if you scroll to the very top of the group chat, I put both of those links in there. I put a link to a presentation that kind of goes over everything. You need to put it in presentation mode for it to work correctly, because it's got animations in it, because I'm a PowerPoint teacher and I don't want to upload it as a PDF. So that's why I've got that link there. The second link takes you to the admin. It's a web-based application. Okay, so the administrators used this web-based application. The second link right here takes you to where you download it. Matter of fact, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to share my screen so you can see. Chrome tab. So that third link in the 3 links that I shared takes you to this screen right here. This has to be downloaded onto your computer. See how I have this Gmetrix icon down here? That's what it'll do. It'll download. So you have to, I've got it downloaded. This is my personal laptop. I take practice tests all the time. I make them and then take them just to make sure everything works. It's even better to take them at school, because sometimes it'll work on my personal laptop and then it won't work at the school right. But you got to download these on every single one of your school, whether you have laptops or whether you have desktops or whatever you have. That's what we're talking about. This is what the students use. Okay, there is a application that looks like this. It looks just like it. Here it is right here. I'm already signed in, but they can't take a test on here because the software has to be downloaded. They have to have Microsoft, the correct version of Microsoft downloaded on the computer. It all has to be downloaded on the computer. So it was a little different in Wake County because they control all the images from the county office. So you'll just have to check with your county. My county is nice enough where they give us Microsoft teachers kind of quasi administrative passwords to go in there and download it ourselves, so we don't have to bother them. So does that answer your question, Beth? Okay, good. Only have Windows workstations. So George, that's probably something your tech people will have to, because we had dummy terminals for a while and they got it to work eventually. All right, and please recording is on the top of the screen. Thanks. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions or anything that you still need help with, because we're just about out of time. All right. If there's no other questions, I want to thank you all for attending the session. Well, yeah. Web-based. If you create a web-based test, then you would be able to go to that screen that I just showed you, and they could do it online. But those don't work real well, as I can attest to. That's why we checked our kids out laptops and downloaded everything on the laptops, because the web-based stuff doesn't work. So, all right. You guys enjoy the rest of your conference. Have a great day. Feel free to email me or shoot me any kind of questions. All right. Do that. You're welcome.